Hey everybody, and welcome to another devlog video for the procedural city generator. Today we'll be taking a look at my progress with water support. One of the two main features that I've been working on for this next update. One obviously has been landscape support, the most complicated one, but also I wanted to be able to support water. Because now that you have a landscape, you may want to create an island like you see here, you may want to add some lakes, we'll even want to use Epic's own water system or any other of the really cool assets that are in the marketplace. So let's just take a quick look at what I have here. Obviously, you can see here that instead of a really big mountainous area, I decided to create a little island surrounded by water. And we also have some lakes here. You can see that I've added some small lakes and some mountains here. And this is my way of testing basically my progress with water. So this is a fairly big map. If I zoom in here, you can see at the scale, this is where we are with the grass. So this is a fairly decent sized map. And the first thing I want to show you guys is, well, small improvements to the material here, to the procedural material. If I go into the landscape mode on the paint tab, you see that I've actually added 3 new additional layers: soil, asphalt, and sand. It used to be just procedural and foliage removal. And now each individual building can target a specific layer to for its base. So before it was foliage removal, so it was all grass except without foliage. Now you can say, hey, all of the commercial buildings, the big skyscrapers, I want them to use asphalt for their base. So now when you create a commercial zone and you walk around, all of the buildings will have their base. Even though it's a landscape, it'll be flattened and it'll use an asphalt texture, which of course looks a lot more realistic if you've been to a big city. Versus say something like rural town, maybe you want to use soil as the base for some rural homes. So after adding this, I went back in each zone. I went back to those buildings and changed which layer they use. So you'll see as we generate the city, how that's going to be making a big difference in the way that the actual city looks. So fairly small change, but in my opinion, adds a really nice look to it. The other thing I want to show you guys is auto bridges, and this has been in PCG in this version for a while, but I didn't want to show it until I had some of the other stuff ready. So let's just do something real quick, a really quick demo here. So it's actually very simple. I just drag the main road here. I'm just gonna drag the spline points here. And let's say that we have a road. So I'll make this a little bit taller here, that goes above water. So right now, all you will need to do is click on this detect water boolean. That's going to add additional traces per segment to see if the road actually goes through any of the water actors. And if you uncheck construction mode, notice that we're automatically adding a bridge mesh for the sections of the road that are going on top of the water. So not only do we have a separate mesh here with this little the concrete guardrails, but we have pillars here that go all the way down, and by purpose I make sure they overlap the ground, so you can see that automatically we have like a little bridge that forms. And if I just go ahead and move this around, you can see how the segments are automatically generated on top of the water. So really neat. I think I showed this a little while back on Discord, but it's really nice to see it, how it actually works. So I went ahead and added bridge meshes to the 3 types of roads that we have. And this, and I'm just gonna do this same here. I'm gonna make it a little bit taller here. Detect water and remove construction mode. And in this case, this is a minor road. You can see that we have like one of those metal bridges that you would find for smaller roads. And these are, of course, 2-lane roads. And same thing, I just move it around and you can see how just the segments that are above water automatically change. And finally, just to make a point here, let's show you what I have for the side roads. These are the one lane roads. And again, as simple as detect water, remove construction mode, and in this case, we have this little bridge here. So if I were to hit play, you can see what that looks like. It's like a little, almost like a little house, so to speak, versus something like this, which looks a little bit different. So I haven't done anything for highways yet. I've been focused on these three types of roads. I have to go back to highways, and I may add something like this for highways. Keep it simple. Highways are obviously wider, so just still add the little rails here. And notice that the column meshes correspond to the type of bridge. So I went ahead and added that information. And you can obviously change that. So if you go to final defaults here, bridge meshes here, you can see that we have three base meshes. We have the actual road segment mesh, that's here. But we have a base, which is this little piece here. And then we have the leg meshes, which are going to be scaled based on the height. So if I were to grab this spline point here and put it up, notice how the legs are stretched to make sure that they go all the way down. So you can see there. So if you're an artist, I'm sure you can come up with way better meshes than this, but you can always export these meshes and see how I configure the pivot point and things like that to make sure that things work out of the box. But again, really nice to be able to have the roads automatically detect water and change the segment mesh here. All right, so that's the first component. But what happens when I'm generating the roads? And my idea for water was simple. Usually bridges are flat. Flat means whatever height the bridge is, they tend to continue that height. So the way I'm approaching this is, and you can see I have a little check here, is if you have this checked, search for water, the actual road manager spawner, as is tracing for segments of the road, will look in addition for a water actor. And if it finds that water actor, it will keep the same height constant until it reaches a land again, and then it tries to again contour to the landscape. So what you're going to see is roads are going to be contouring to the landscape, but as soon as they hit the water, we want them flat, right? But we don't want the road to be flat right on top of the water, right? Because it's going to hit the water and get this location here. So what I've done is that I've added an actual offset. So you can say, hey, I want a specific offset from the water, say 1,000 or 1,500 units or whatever, and you can specify that per water actor. So that's the next thing. You have a default setting, but you can actually specify this information per water actor. So what I did is I created a component called PCG water settings, and you can just add this component to any water actor in your level. It can be anything, and you can see that we have a few settings. First, we have a couple of booleans here that tell the spawner which roads are allowed to traverse that water. So in this case, I say for this lake, I'm only allowing minor roads to traverse. So if a main road tries to generate over this water, when it detects the water, it'll say, hey, am I allowed to traverse it? No, then the road will stop. In other words, this water will be an obstacle to any road that is not marked here. And then you have a minimum water offset, which in this case by default is 1,000. So you'll see that the road comes here, aligns here, but then as soon as it hits the water, it'll say, hey, what is my height in relation to the water? And then if it's less than 1,000, it'll automatically put the spline point at the minimum of 1,000 units above the water surface. And that is why when we generate some of these roads, you'll see that there is going to be like a slight curve where the road kind of goes up, remains flat, and then goes down. and that is because they have a minor offset. And obviously every single water can have a different offset, and you can do something like what I did for the ocean here, which is obviously the biggest actor here. This is what's encompassing the entire island. And if I go to the water settings, notice that we're not allowing any roads on the ocean. So if for some reason, so even though the city bounds, you can see here, have part of the ocean, if a road generates this way and it hits the ocean, it'll grab here and say, hey, I'm not allowed to generate here, and it'll automatically stop. So again, I'm giving you guys a lot of background so you understand kind of my thinking and how all of the little pieces work. There was another thing that I've added just recently, actually, and it is the ability for roads to detect physical materials. And the reason for that is, well, you see that I've created this little beach area here with sand. I've painted some sand here because I want this city to have like a little beach area. But roads would generate all the way to the edge of the water here and say, well, I just hit the ocean, I stop right here. But in reality, you probably don't want a main road to hit the sand, right? So what I did instead is, and this is not in the UI yet, directly on the road manager, I've added some physical material settings. And if you are using this setup, you can say, yes, I want to detect physical materials. And then based on the type of road, you can add which physical material will act as an obstacle for that road. So in my material, I created sand, soil, and asphalt physical materials to match those layers. So now if a main road tries to come here, it'll detect this sand layer because I have it here and stop. Again, creating specific layers as obstacles. So now by default in this map, I want all of my rows to avoid sand. But of course, I can click here and use whatever I want. See, I have asphalt, I have soil, I even have a little test here for something else. And even the sedan has a physical material, which obviously won't be used. And because these are arrays, you can feel free to add as many physical materials as you want. So if you have a complex landscape material, obviously you'll have way more layers. You can have way more physical material layers. You can really customize how your city is generated. So it doesn't have to be on the edge. You could literally create a patch in the middle here, and I show that on Discord. Like in this case, sand. I could just start painting some sand here if I don't want any roads to be created here, and roads will just respect that as long as you select detect physical material. That's one thing that is important to keep in mind. All of these are separate traces, and they do add a cost to generation, right? So if you don't have water in your level, obviously don't search for water. If you don't need to detect physical materials, don't use it. That's an additional trace per segment for every single road, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and just start generating some roads. Now that I've talked a lot, let's go ahead and generate some main roads here. See what that looks like. And I had, you can see, oops, I should have removed that little check here. Let's see if I can do that real quick. Here we go. I was doing a quick test to make sure that when doing the physical material check, that it was stopping the road here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Sorry for that. Really quickly. And let's go back to the level. Come on. There we go. Now we have our main roads. Let's go ahead and generate our minor roads. And again, it's going to be a little bit slower because I am telling them to detect water and detect physical materials. Not super slow, but just a little bit more. And obviously, the bigger the city, the more you're going to notice these things. So let's keep going. You can see how the roads are stopping right here at the edge because they're detecting the water. And notice how these roads here are stopping right here at the edge because they're detecting the sand. So this is the reason why I wanted to do that. Because I want to show you, hey, it detected the sand on the next, so we just stop right here. One thing I want to add is the ability to remove spline points. So you detected the sand here, but maybe you have a few spline points that you remove to make the road a little bit shorter, and that I do for the water. All right, so right here we notice a few problems. You can see the curve that I was talking about, right? The road came around here, it detected the water. These are minor roads, yellows are minor roads. So it's stayed flat, and then as soon as it hits the ground, then it goes and tries to contour to the ground. So we have a lot of bridges here. These right here should not be happening. And this is something I still have to fix. You usually don't have a bridge with divergent connections here, right? So what I have done here is I have a new function called remove water segments. And you can see that we have a bulk function here, which you can select all of the minor roads and do a remove water segment, but instead we can be a little bit more surgical about it. I can just select this road here, and if I just click remove water segments, it'll automatically remove itself because it says, hey, I have some segments that are above the water that should not be above the water. Oops. So you can see this is not working correctly. So still very early on as far as the code. In this case, it only detected the water here, but not here. So you see that one works. So still a little bit more work to be done, but this is again a work in progress. But let's say that we want to keep all of these bridges. Seems a little silly, but that's fine. We'll leave it there. Notice here, again, we have the same issue. I think in this one, we are still allowing minor roads. We don't want these guys here, so we'll just remove them for now. And this one, I think I'm allowing side roads, but we haven't generated any side roads yet. So we don't want this one here either. Let's go ahead and generate some side roads. Come on. And I'm not going to generate them all, so we're not here stuck. You see there's 157 of those. So I'll just hit a few more, and then we'll just go ahead and start spawning the buildings. So we are not stuck here waiting for too long. But you can see that they do respect the mountains, so the setting for the roads of a maximum slope can also be obviously set up here. There we go. This is what I wanted to show. This one only allows side roads, and you can see that these two side roads are here. Now this looks pretty bad. It just finished here, so I can just kind of maybe do that. Again, manual adjustments, right? And we're going to align this as well in just a second here. There you go. And same for this one. Just a few manual adjustments here. All right. All right, now we're going to select our main roads, create intersections, minor roads, create intersections, side roads, create intersections. Let's spawn the cul-de-sacs. You can see a lot of cul-de-sacs here. And now side roads, adjust points, minor roads, adjust points, and main roads, adjust points. I'm not going to spend too much time on the roads themselves because the whole point of this video is the water. So let's just quickly go ahead and align landscape. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing I wanted to show. Let's just flatten points, and flatten the points. One thing I wanted to show is that I added an additional command that it says apply materials only. So sometimes you want to try different materials for the base of the roads. So I didn't want to align the landscape because that is a lot more processing. So if you just align the landscape, it'll align it and apply the material. But if you're not happy, you can change the materials that are applied around the roads very, very easily. So that's another thing I wanted to show. So let's quickly select our connectors and we're going to align the landscape. Okay. Oops. And I think I may have broken something there. I need to fix that. Let's go to cul-de-sacs, which we have a bunch here, and align the landscape. A lot of cul-de-sacs. You can see how it aligned it. So I think I broke the connectors here. I have to go back and fix it. I was adding the same option for all of them, and you can see here only apply materials and only align the landscape. So I think there's something wrong there. But whatever, let's go ahead and keep going here. You can see that we've aligned them. And now it's time to align the road. So give it a second for the shaders to compile. Okay. And now let's go ahead and start aligning the roads. These are the main roads. Oh, and I did want to show something really neat as soon as this is done. When you align the road, that's another challenge that I had, was aligning the road means that wherever that spline point is, we will try to get the landscape to align to that segment. But what happens right here if you have a segment of the road that is above the water, right? And that is a problem when you're doing that, because if you don't take that into account, what this will do is it'll bring the landscape all the way to the height of the road, negating the fact that we want a bridge. So what we do in this case is we select all of the minor roads and we make sure that we select detect water. And you can see now that if I go here, all of the minor roads are going to be detecting the water. And let's do that for the side roads as well. Detect water. We want all of them to be able to detect water. And now if we select our minor roads and we align the landscape, we'll see what happens here. Give it a second. What should happen, there we go. Notice what happened here. I aligned the landscape only on the segments that are not above the water. Notice that. That was actually pretty challenging because how can you cannot apply sections of a spline to the landscape. The landscape only has one section that you can apply at the same time. So what I ended up doing was looping through, calculating along each road how many water segments were found, and then I'm literally recreating the landscape spline from one end to the other, applying it, and then skipping sections, and then creating another landscape and applying it. It took me a little bit to figure out the best way of doing this, but the result is exactly what you see here, which I'm really proud of. I still use one spline. I'm just reconstructing the spline for every segment of the road that is not under the water. And that would create this little part here. And then once I switch the bridge meshes, you'll see what that's going to look like. You're going to have a regular road with soil at the bottom. And then as soon as the water starts, you'll have the bridge mesh here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here so you guys are not waiting for this thing to autosave. This is something that Unreal does, unfortunately. So I'll be back in just a second. All right, and we are back. Sorry about that. But as you can see here, as I was talking, you can see that now the bridges look way, way better, as you see that the actual landscape has been modified up to the edge of the water, which is something that you would normally see, right? And then when you hit the water, nothing has been aligned because you don't want to disturb the water. Here that didn't work as well. You can see the spline point is here, so this is one of those things that we have to fix. You may need to do a little bit of manual work here, but you get the idea. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for side roads. I'm gonna go ahead and align the landscape. And remember, we have some side roads on the other side for that lake, so we should see some similar results. Let's see if we got that. There you go, and you can see that we have something similar happened here. This one unfortunately carved around the lake, so it's not gonna be perfect. But I'm pretty happy with those results so far. Look at this road. Probably not very realistic, so in that case what I would do is I would just remove it. Whoever lives on this side of the ocean probably has some really prime real estate, I guess. And you can see here how it detected the sand and it stopped. However, like I mentioned earlier, I want to have the ability to remove a couple of those last blind points, so there's like a little bit of a buffer between where the road ends and where the sand or whatever layer it is begins. So more things to work on, obviously, but we're just going to leave that for now. So now let's go ahead and select all our roads, and I want to disable detect water because there's no need to do that for all of the roads when we can just manually pick which roads are bridges. And this is just for performance reasons. Just this ones we want to detect water. And if I go all the way here, we'll do the same thing for these two. Yep, go ahead and detect water. And for these two, go ahead and detect water. And now, finally, wow, look at that. Probably not very good, but we're gonna leave it there for now. Now, if we select, or let's just go ahead, side roads, and we're going to remove construction mode. Hopefully we see the bridges pop up. And this is a pretty big city, so it's going to take a little bit to regenerate all of the roads with individual segments. So you do need to be a little patient here when you do that. But you can see that we have some bridges, auto bridges. This looks a lot more what you would normally find. Not this. You probably don't want this kind of road here. So we'll just see if we can make this a little bit taller. There you go. And we can realign the landscape here, but we'll leave it like that for now. All right. Minor roads. Leave construction mode. Whoops. And notice that we are now using a dirt material, or layer rather, for the roads as the default. Before it was just removing the grass. Now I'm using a dirt layer. So again, this is all fully customizable. You can go in and change per road type which layer of the landscape material they apply. This is just me trying to add some additional variety, but you can obviously use whatever you want. So this is one of the most important things that I want to stress, is that you can customize all of these things. For the bridge meshes, if you have an asset from the marketplace, that has bridges and you can match it to your road, you can just use those. If you have, if you can do it yourself, if you know what you're doing, then you can obviously create your own. So a lot of this is fully customizable to whatever you want. Okay. All right. And this is really the main thing of the video, is just showing you guys the water. But I guess we could just quickly spawn some houses here just to drive the point home, and just finish up the city. But I think you've seen all of the features. Landscape has more layers now. Roads auto detect water and have a bridge mesh that they use. The align landscape function with water. Again, really interesting that I was able to solve that problem, because before that it was basically messing up all of the water along the roads. Now I was able to find a way to prevent that. And now all of the different roads, you can see, can apply different materials. So I can just open here and resave the material to update the grass maps. So this is again something that is just kind of the way the Unreal Engine works. So you can see now that they're updated, they look a lot better. And you can see the auto bridges here. In this case, a little unnatural. You could add another spline point here if you wanted to. But again, point is, you can see where I'm going with this. There you go. All right. Oops. And you can see, you can probably remove this point here, and you'll have something like that. All right. Finally, let's just quickly go ahead and do the same for the buildings. And in this case, you also have a check for water, because again, it's an additional trace. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, because we do have water in the map. You don't want houses spawning next to the bridges. But if you're not using water at all, you probably don't want to do that. Whoops. And I think I just found an issue. If you select search for water, the cul-de-sac buildings are not spawning. So again, something that I need to fix up. All right, so actually what I'll do is, because it's taking a little bit too long because of the additional water trace and the size of the map, I think I will just stop the recording here. Let me generate the buildings, and then we'll see the final result. So I will be right back. Hey everybody, and we are back. I decided not to spawn all of the buildings just to save some time, and instead spawned some foliage and some props. Because again, the main point of the video is obviously to show the water. So yeah, the main thing is, again, you're seeing that the bridges are generating. You can see that we have obviously the houses being generated here, as you've seen before. But I didn't spend too much time, as you can see here, fixing the driveways or whatnot. But yeah, we have bridges. That is the main thing that I wanted to show you guys today. And this seems to be a really big island. So not all of the houses have been spawned, but at least you get an idea of where we are with the water. So yeah, that is pretty much it, guys. You can see that this is obviously not done. I still have more work to be done for the water. Things like this that didn't spawn. I think I broke this last time I was working on. There's still some work to be done with water detection. You can see here. This probably shouldn't happen. I'm not really sure why somebody would live there. But again, conceptually, I know why it happened. The trace hit the edge here, and it determined that there was no water here. So of course the house spawned. You know, what can I do? Can I, you know... So there's different things that I have to think about to kind of polish this up a bit. But by and large, water support and auto bridges is kind of there, and this is kind of my main goal so far. So do let me know what you think. If you have any ideas about some of the issues that we've talked about today, I'd love to hear your suggestions. So yeah, if you haven't joined our Discord, I'm going to leave a link in the description of the video Do join. I post a lot more messages and pictures, and if you're really curious as to what I'm working on, I'm way more active on Discord because I don't have a lot of time to record these videos, and I do get a lot of suggestions from people there. So if you want to talk to me, Discord would be the easiest way. All right, guys, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the video and you like where this is going, and I'll talk to you the next one.